Dear friends, welcome back to Automate with Rakesh. In this video, we are going to learn about software testing terminologies. You might have heard about different terms in testing. For example, smoke testing, functional testing, acceptance testing, exploratory testing, regression testing, integration testing, system testing. What are all this? We will learn in detail. So let's get started. Now, the very first testing that we are going to learn is exploratory testing. What is the meaning of exploratory? If I ask you to explore a application, what do? You go to the application, start navigating within the application, trying to check everything that is available within the application, like explore. Explorating testing is typically conducted manually. You do it manually. That is the very first point. Second point, in exploratory testing, testers are given freedom to explore the software application. You are exploring it. That's why the term exploratory testing, it is a manual testing. Interact with different features of the application and design test scenarios on the fly. That means on the go. You are designing after you looking at the application, you are thinking, okay, this could be tested, this function should be tested. You are identifying one by one. They may vary their testing strategies, focus areas, and test scenarios based on the observations, insights, and testing goals. So this is more like a manual testing one by one. You are checking in an application if I order something from the application, does it go to the cart or not? Right? If there is no item in the cart, it should not show the payment option. Is it working or not? So manually you are doing. This is more like a manual testing or exploratory testing. Exploratory testing is particularly effective in scenarios where the requirements are unclear, where you don't have proper understanding of the system, where you don't know how that application should behave. So you are doing this manual testing when you are unclear about the requirements, what to test, what not to test. The software is complex, or when there is limited time available for formal test planning. If you have limited time, you can't design a test plan how to test it. Then you do a manual test and understand, okay, the application at least working what is expected. It allows testers to quickly adapt to changing conditions, identify unexpected issues, and provide rapid feedback to the development team. Simply by doing a manual testing, you can easily give some feedbacks. Okay, this is not working. This is supposed to work this way. There's supposed to be a pop-up which did not appear. All kind of rapid feedback we can provide through manual testing. So this is about exploratory testing. Now let's move on to our next testing term called smoke testing. So what is smoke testing first of all? Smoke testing. So let's understand. The name smoke testing originates from the electronics industry. When electronic devices are manufactured, they undergo preliminary test. Let's say any electronic device. For example, a grinder, right? Let's say there is an electronic device called grinder, which is manufactured. Now, how you do a smoke testing? They go through a smoke testing. How? They undergo preliminary test to check if if they produce smoke or catch fire when powered on for the first time. So when you turn it on, does it catching fire? That means there is something really wrong with the product. So that is called smoke testing. So they're waiting for some fire to happen, some smokes to come from the motherboard, from the chip that is being used in the device. So that is called smoke testing. Now, how it is applicable in software industry, in software testing. Let's see that. If the device passes this initial test without emitting smoke or catching fire, this is still talking about the electronic device. It is considered to have passed the smoke test. If there is no smoke is coming, that means it has passed the smoke test. Then you can do the next set of test to understand whether that application fits the market requirement or not. So first thing you do is you plug in and turn it on and see whether it is getting some fire or not. That means there is something wrong. So this is called smoke testing, and it is deemed safe to undergo further testing usage. So once it passes the smoke testing, then the product will go for further testing. Now, how it is applicable in a software, let's see that. The purpose of smoke testing is to determine whether the critical functions or functionalities of the software are working correctly. Critical function, you are only targeting the major functions of the software. Is it working properly or it is not working properly through the smoke testing? So remember, when the word smoke testing comes, remember the word major functions or critical functions. Okay, important ones. There are so many buttons on the software. You are just checking the important ones: how to sign up, how to log in, is it working or not in the application. Only the major ones you are looking at. So those, identifying the major functions and then simply testing it whether it's working or not, that is called smoke testing. Typically after a new build or a version is deployed. So when you are building the software newly, entirely new software, so you first test this main areas whether it's working or not, right? Or there is some kind of a upgrade happened, some version upgrade has happened. You are using 1.0, now it has become 2.0. It's a new version of the application. So you are checking main important areas first, whether they are working or not. So that is called smoke testing, checking major functions. Getting it? All right. So now we got familiar with smoke testing, and prior to that we got familiar with exploratory testing. Exploratory testing is a manual testing. Smoke testing is a checking the major parts of the software, critical functions. Okay, this is important. All right, let's move on to our next testing term, which is called regression testing. Now, what is regression? The meaning of regression is the art of returning to previous state. Regression means you return to the previous state. Returning. So why you have to return? What is that returning it is talking about? It involves retesting previously tested features. Let's say you have tested the login feature, sign up feature you have tested. So you are retesting it. Why you have to retest? To ensure that they still perform as expected after modifications or bug fixes or new additions to the code base. So you have made some kind of a bug. There were certain bugs which you have fixed it. So after you applied the solution, are those features are still working or not? You have to test. Regression means returning to the previous state. So here we are retesting what was already tested. You are retesting. That is called regression testing. Getting it? Smoke testing is if there is a new product, newly launched product, or a new version of the product, you are checking the major functions, right? And regression means you are testing, retesting the functions which was already tested for the prior version, right? Here there is some addition has happened, some bug fixes you have done because there was some issue on 1.0. Now you are releasing 1.1 by fixing those bugs. So there you do a regression testing. Okay, it is the same version, but again 1.0 to 1.1 you have gone. So you are doing a regression testing there. Just checking if there are bugs have been fixed. After fixing the bugs, whether those functionalities are working or not. Regression testing is a type of software testing that verifies whether recent changes or enhancements to a software application have affected existing functions. Any kind of enhancement, any kind of bug fixes that you have done in the application, has it stopped or affected the existing functionalities? You are going to check through regression testing. So regression means, remember, returning, doing the retesting after some kind of a enhancements, bug fixes, you are doing a retesting. That is called regression testing. Okay. The importance of continuously verifying the integrity of existing functionalities alongside the development of new features or updates. It highlights the proactive approach to maintaining the software quality by systematically testing. So regression testing, you will hear a lot of time. We are doing regression testing. That means there is already an application available. Every month there is some kind of a modification is happening. You are doing a regression testing to ensure that the old functionalities are working. They are not impacted. You have created multiple functionalities in the application. They should not be stopped because of the new thing you are bringing in. So that is called regression testing. So you test each and every component here. This goes in detail. In detail, you are testing each and every area. Okay, regression testing. All right. Now you must have heard about the term called unit testing. Unit testing focuses on testing individual units or components of the software in isolation. That means individually you're testing one unit. For example, checkout. When you go to a shopping website, there's a checkout. There's a payment. So payment is a unit. Checkout is a unit. So you are testing each individual units called unit testing. In RPA, you're checking each YAML, one YAML, login YAML, logout YAML, right? Processing YAML. So you are checking each and one YAML one by one, then it becomes a unit testing. You are testing each area at a time. Unit tests are typically automated and run frequently during the development process, often by developers themselves. So unit testing is more done by the developers of the application itself. Unit testing is not specifically categorized as smoke testing or regression testing. You don't call unit testing as a smoke testing. In smoke testing, the major goal is that my product is working or not. The moment for example, the hardware product we discussed, electronic product, the moment you put, you are seeing whether the entire product is working. It is targeting the major parts, right? Major areas, whether it is working or not. Regression means is testing each and every area is working or not. So this is a broad category which targets the product. It targets the entire product is working or entire product is working or not. But what unit testing is talking about, it talking about individual component, one small part of the product. Is it working or not, right? As its primary purpose is to ensure the correctiveness of individual units rather than overall system functions. So regression, smoke testing, this is overall system. This is only a specific part of the system. While they can be part of both smoke testing and regression testing. So unit testing can be part of both smoke testing and regression testing. They are not inherently categorized under either. Okay, they are not part of this as such, because this is for the entire system. This is for a specific part of the system. Okay, now let's move on to our next term, which is called integration testing. Integration testing verifies the interactions between different units or components. So unit testing is checking one small sections. For example, on a shopping website, the checkout and the payment section, they have to be integrated. If you are putting 5 items, the payment section should be able to calculate the value of everything and show him the options of payment. If there is no item, then the payment section should not come. It should not appear. First, it should tell him, hey, you have no items. First, you add some items, right? So integration testing is you are testing whether multiple units are working together or not. Integration means working together or not. Integration testing can be part of both smoke testing and regression testing. So integration testing can be part of both of them. In smoke testing, integration test may be included to ensure that critical interactions between components are functioning after a new build or release. And in regression testing, integration test may be rerun to verify that the recent changes have not adversely affected the integration points between the components. So in smoke testing means you are checking the major communication is happening between the units or not. In regression testing means you are rerunning it, which has already been done. You are rerunning those tests, integration testing, just to see whether they are communicating properly or not. Okay. In summary, while unit testing and integration testing are not specifically categorized under smoke testing and regression testing, they can be components of both depending on the specific testing strategy and objectives of the testing effort. So your testing is not, you cannot say this is how you have to do. Based on the system, you decide, okay, this is what the major areas I have to test. So there are different terms for that. Let me do first unit testing, or you will say, let us do first a smoke testing. Then we will go for unit testing. Then we will do integration testing. Then we will do regression testing. So in the future, any update we are doing, bug fixes we are doing, we will continue to do the regression testing. So these terms are used. It is important to understand those terms quite well. Now let's see, there is something called functional testing. Functional testing means it involves testing various features and functionalities of the software. Now everywhere we are doing functional testing only, right? We are checking everything. So what is the difference between them and this? such as user interface interaction, data manipulation, calculation. Let's see this. Functional testing can include different types of testing techniques, such as user interface testing. User interface, your application, if I open on Windows operating system, if I open it on a Linux operating system, if I open your user interface, is it working properly? The graphics are appearing properly or not? So it is looking at a larger picture. Your user interface is working as expected or not, whether the layout is properly appearing, all the graphics elements on the page, is it properly appearing on different systems and sizes, right? So you are testing a specific functions of the system. User interface testing. API testing, you are checking whether the APIs are working properly or not. Testing and application programming interfaces to ensure proper communication and data exchange between the software components are happening or not. So here you can understand it is looking for very specific areas. Database testing, verifying data integrity, consistency and accuracy in the database. So it is just not on the software side, on the interface side, it is also testing other areas, API testing, database testing, like that. Boundary testing means testing input values at or beyond the boundaries of valid ranges to uncover potential issues. Right, the ranges in the sense, for example, if 10 users are logging into the application, it is working fine. If 1000 plus, if it is going, then the application is running very slow. So you are testing what is the limit of the application, where that limit ends, right? So these are called boundary testing. So overall, it is looks after specific functions of the application. So the application doesn't run just on its own, right? There are so many other things behind the scene. Databases are there, APIs are there, not just the user interface. So functional testing targets all those areas. All right, let's move on to the next term called system testing. System testing verifies the behavior and performance of the entire software system as a whole. Now it is very clear. System means everything comes under it. You don't skip any part, everything as a whole, everything you consider. This is called system testing. It tests the integrated systems to ensure that all components work together seamlessly and meet the overall system requirement. So this is the largest test. You do everything, right? Entire testing you do. System testing may include testing scenarios such as end-to-end business processes to validate the system functionality from start to finish. Cross-functional interactions between different modules or subsystems to verify the data flow and integration points. Compatibility testing to ensure the software operates correctly in different environments, configuration and platforms. All right. So system testing includes everything, all that you have learned till now, your unit testing, everything fall under that. You're testing end to end, everything, system testing. All right. Then next is acceptance testing. The word is very clear, acceptance. Acceptance testing evaluates whether the software meets the acceptance criteria and requirements specified by the stakeholders or end users. So for example, if I'm using a Facebook, so what is the specific requirement here? You want to add people as friend, you should be able to block, you should be able to hide certain things, you should be able to talk to other people, you should be able to connect to other people. So these are the end user expectations. Stakeholder expectation could be advertisers should run at certain point of time, so many advertisements should run, if the video is so long, then after so many seconds it should run. So those kind could be a stakeholder expectation in terms of revenue and other things. So you are meeting those expectations or not from the software is called acceptance testing. It focuses on validating that the software fulfills the business objectives and user needs. Acceptance testing typically occurs in the final stages of the software development life. This should be your final testing. Acceptance testing may include various techniques such as user acceptance testing called UAT. This word almost everybody should be familiar with. User acceptance testing, that means you give it to the business users or the end users and ask them to test it. Whoever is going to use the software, you ask them to test and provide feedback. Many softwares in the world you might be seeing, they will be asking for feedback. Did you like this? What is wrong? You can share feedback anytime you like. So that is called user acceptance testing. Business acceptance testing, you will give it to the stakeholders of the business to check or test the specific areas they are interested. Testing the software with real users or stakeholders to gather feedback, validating that the software meets the predefined acceptance criteria and user stories. So this is your last testing called acceptance testing. So you have learned about multiple different testing terms. I hope that would add some value in your learning. Thank you guys for watching. Let's move on to our next topic.